who are on Zoom and YouTube. Everybody wave to them. And just a reminder to everybody that what we're talking about today is recorded for the outside world. So before we get into the heart of the program today, this is an opportunity for committee chairs to briefly share what's kind of going on with your committee, if you're having an upcoming meeting. So please come to the microphone and share what you have to share.
Good morning, everyone.
Oh,
Can you hear me? Okay.
not really.
Good morning. Okay, no worries. Just let me know when it's ready.
You want to come here?
I mean, I can do that so we don't have to take time. Good morning, everyone. Michelle Flores for the women's group. The last one was actually really interesting. And our next one is coming up the first Friday. We do it the first Friday of every month when possible. And the next one is going to be Friday, March 3rd here at 6:30. Thank you.
Ooh, nope, that one's not on it. Hello. Okay, this one works. Hi, Chloe McElroy representing religious education and childcare today. With potluck going on, what we'll do is as soon as the line starts, we're going to send your kids into the service to hang out with y'all. And we appreciate if you help your kids get their food and let them get settled. And then once the kids are done with their food, you're welcome to find either Jules or Celia. I will already be gone, so Jules and Celia are going to be the representatives of religious education and childcare today, and make sure that one of them knows that the kids are going out to the playground. We will have childcare until 1 p.m. today, and it is a hard cutoff at 1 p.m. because we do have our staff that needs to leave exactly at that time. So just to let you know, childcare will be until 1 p.m. today, and any questions, let me know.
Is this working yet? Nope. Lindsay Strofe and the auction committee starting to get in donations, and thank you to everybody that's doing that. On the side table, there are forms that you can fill out with your donation, and also letters that you can pick up if you're going to go to a business. If you're going to a business, please let Lori know first. Lori at hospitality@uuuf.org. If you have any questions, you can email me at auction@uuuf.org. One of the things you might think about, if you're thinking my house is too small to do anything, you can do something at a restaurant. You can even do what I did and arrange for a day when the church is available and have your event here. Or there's all sorts of things you can do. First You just had their auction and raised a huge amount of money, and it was mostly services from members of their congregation. So think about what you can do. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Hey, John Mowbray on behalf of Facilities and Grounds, and this coming Saturday is a work day, and most of the time is going to be spent on doing some work on the play sets. They need a little bit of work. So if you know how to work a hammer, screwdriver, shovel, we could use the help. Or if you don't feel like doing any of that, but you like pulling weeds or you want to do something else around the place, please do. So this Saturday, 9 to 12, if you can only come Saturday. This Saturday, 9 to 12. If you can only come for half hour, the whole time, please come. All right, thanks.
Hi, Laurie Striel, Hospitality. Are you ready for the Super Bowl? So we're going to start with our tailgate party, which is our potluck right after service. So everyone is welcome. As I always say, there's always lots of food. You forgot and didn't read notable news? Come anyway. You're a guest and you didn't bring anything? We really want you to come. So we're all set. There's lots of food coming in. I'll give announcements at the end about how to organize it and go through the line. And I think that's it.
Excuse me. Good morning. Kelly Buchanan, the Marketing Chair Committee. I'm the Marketing Chair of Marketing. I hope you understand that. No, so my announcement today is that we are going to have a meeting this quarter, and if you are interested, I see a lot of new faces, but we are looking for other committee members. If you're jazzy and creative with marketing skills, you like the social media, you like to write content, you like to engage in others and community outreach events. We're getting ready to kind of schedule and to organize our third and fourth quarter events. So please come and see me. We can add you to our distribution list and get you involved. And you can join our meeting. Thank you.
Joey Cole. Today I'm here for SAC, that's our Social Action Committee. We are meeting next week, both on Zoom and in person. If you're interested, you can see Martha. I'm not going to be here today, I can't stay. So Martha, raise your hand so they'll know who to talk to, or anybody else from SAC, if you want to raise your hand so people know who to talk to. I'm also here, I'm using my visual aid. Okay, you'll see these blue signs up in a couple of places around the sanctuary. Pathlight Homes is collecting shoes. The drive was from the 1st to the 16th. I didn't get it here last week because my printer wasn't working and I didn't have the signs. I apologize. But I did ask them, and even though it really is supposed to cut off on Thursday, they'll let me bring them in later. So if you do have gently used shoes of any kind, especially good work boots, like these are definitely used, but they have really good tread on them. But any kind of shoe at all, please bring them in. Pathlight Homes houses the chronically homeless. They have 2 facilities in downtown Orlando, and they do wonderful work. So if you could help us out with making some shoe donations, bring them next week. I plan to contribute $50 also, so if you want to contribute some money, I'll take that too.
And Ann here, Vice President of the Board, just reminding everybody that our quarterly meeting is 2 weeks from now. That's the 26th. There will be childcare after the service, so please put that on your calendars to attend. So my opening words today are from the Reverend John Gibb Millspaw, who's from the Winchester Unitarian Society in Winchester, Massachusetts. So he wrote these words after the earthquake in Haiti in 2010, and I feel like they're pretty much appropriate for what happened this week in Turkey and Syria. In the aftermath of the earthquake, in which tens of thousands of people lost their lives and many others lost their homes, their families and loved ones, we who have watched from afar have felt helpless, powerless in the face of tragedy, forgetting that we do have the capacity to make a difference, one life at a time. Our hearts are open to all who suffer as a result of the earthquake. We see, on our televisions and computer screens and in our newspapers, the shattered buildings, survivors struggling to find their kin or just food for water or medicine, so many lives in ruins. We are keenly aware of our own privilege. In these times, we stand confused before the global forces that shape our lives, in awe before the mystery. Spirit of life and love, even as we have witnessed death sweep the landscape, we know that life renews itself, and renews itself even now, as human good springs up in the face of disaster, and people reach out to one another across neighborhoods, across oceans, serving one another across every difference. Our opening music today will be As Long as I Have Breath, which is in hymn number 6. And I think Stephanie's going to lead us in that.
I'll just stand under this thing. It's hymn 6 in the hymnal. You should have hymnals in front of you. I don't know if the words are up there, but it will not hurt you to look at the music in the hymnal. I promise nobody will combust from doing that. Everybody up? I'm leading. All right, guys. We've sung this before, so I know you know it. And if you haven't met Alicia, this is Alicia, our accompanist this morning, and she knows it. So let's roll. Ready? Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though with pain and made my way, still with hope I meet each day. If they ask what I regret, tell them I said yes to love. Good, a little louder. Just as long as vision lasts, I must answer yes to truth. In my dream and in my dark, always that elusive spark. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to truth. Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to love. Disappointment pierced me through, still I kept on loving you. If they ask what I did best, tell them I said yes to love. Very nice, thank you.
Our chalice lighter this morning is Chase. He uses he, him pronouns. He's 12 years old, and he got his hair cut. We say these words in unison. In the light of truth, in the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. And each week we reaffirm our commitment to this congregation with the words on the screen. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another. I want to welcome everybody again today, especially guests who may be here for the first time or those who have just come a few times. We ask you to come multiple times to get to know us better because every week is different. That's what's exciting about our congregation. We have a called minister who's here some of the times. We also have speakers from our various institutions of higher learning. We have from nonprofits and also members of our own congregation. So please visit us several times. And you are very lucky because you came on a potluck Sunday. So please join us afterward. I remember when the first time I came here, the first Sunday I ever came here was a potluck Sunday. I had, of course, no idea. And people were like, you should stay. And we can't stay. Like, we didn't bring anything, but we did. And here we are, like 10 years later. So, but take a moment to greet your neighbors that are sitting next to you. We will have plenty of time after the service to keep chit-chatting. Now is the time in our service where we ask people to share, if they feel comfortable, joys and concerns. These are joys and other highlights in our lives that we'd like to share with others, and as well as concerns. So if you feel comfortable, you can come to the microphone if it's working. Otherwise, come here. And if you're not able to get up from your chair, we'll bring the microphone to you, assuming it's working.
Hi, I'm in. Not working. Is it turned on? It is. Hello.
Just speak loudly.
Yeah, speak loud right up to it. Hello, my name is Anastasia, and I have a joy that I got new shoes.
We're Roberta and Harvey, and a lot of you know that because we were very excited that we might become great-grandparents. February 9th, we officially became great-grandparents to Sophia and Henry.
I got my hair cut from my dad. I found a remote-controlled car that's called the Primo Raminator, and it's about this tall, and it goes 30 miles an hour.
My joy is that we have our new accompanist, and that makes me super happy. And my concern, but not a worry, is that I'm having surgery Friday finally. And I started bridging my Coumadin this morning, so that's a little weird, but but I started doing it. And the surgery is Friday. They're doing a full hysterectomy, so the tumor will go along with all the other parts I don't need anyway. And then, what's there can't get sick. What isn't there, can't get sick. So then they'll do a biopsy on the tumor, and I won't find out till March 2nd what they find out. That's just so dumb. But nonetheless, March 2nd, I'll have an appointment with the oncologist and find out what they found out. And I don't think I have cancer, so that's what I'm expecting. But, we'll see. So anyway, I won't be able to drive. My recovery is 6 to 12 weeks long, and I don't know I'm going to get released that night. So it's not catastrophic surgery, but the recovery is a long time because of where the cut is. And so I don't know what I'll be able to do. So I'll keep you posted.
And we're always available to help.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, ongoing saga of the formerly serious illness of my father. He's already out of the hospital. He's at home. I know. He's at home, and VA assistance is coming to the house and teaching my mom how to care for him. And he is as feisty as ever, so yay.
Hello, my name is Billy, and I got a pet skink yesterday.
Lenny the skink. That is wonderful. Hi, Chloe Hatfield, and my joy is that after service today, after potluck, I'm going to be going to Casadega with 3 of my best friends, and we're going to have an adventure there and maybe some spiritual healing.
Hi everyone, Rev Tracie here, and I have the great joy of announcing I have achieved my 2nd renewal of fellowship with the UUA. I have 1 more and then I'm in full fellowship. So thank you to the board and to the Committee on Shared Ministry who did my evaluations, and for those of you who they spoke with, thank you so much. 2 down, 1 more to go, and then I'm done with that. So thank you.
Let us just take a moment to ponder on some of the joys and concerns that may not have been shared today. Let's just take a moment. Amen. We will now have our time for all ages. Roberta's going to read a story, and we ask the children to come forward.
Thank you.
Roberta doesn't bite.
You know, today we're going to be talking about teachers because Unitarian Universalists believe that teachers are very important. It's not only just teachers in school, but just about anybody can be your teacher. Even I today am still learning. Of course, most teachers are just an anonymity. They don't become famous, even though they may have made positive things for so many of their students in their lives. But, of course, everybody's heard of Jesus and Socrates. Another teacher that a lot of people know about, but I'm not too sure young people do, is Annie Sullivan. Has anybody ever heard of Annie Sullivan? Yeah, see, the grown-ups have. I actually saw her and Helen Keller on TV years ago when I was a little girl, and they were quite elderly at the time. Helen Keller was born in 1880 in Alabama. Because of a serious illness, she survived, but she couldn't see or she couldn't hear. Just imagine if you were like that. Her parents couldn't, or her family could not communicate with her. She would throw tantrums, and they would just let her do whatever she wanted. They wanted to put her, people suggested that they just put her in a home. It was hopeless. But her mother wouldn't do that. And after some research, they found a teacher for her to come and live with them in Alabama and see if she could get through to Helen. Her name was Annie Sullivan. Annie was very poor, had a tough childhood herself, even had surgery because she was almost blind, to being able to see a little better. She was a tough lady, and she wanted to be a teacher, and she actually became one. So when Annie came to live with Helen, Helen was about 7 years old. She was very strong, Helen, very tough, but Annie was tougher. Because just imagine, I mean, at one point, Helen was so mad she hit Annie and knocked out her 2 front teeth. If you were a teacher for a child like that, would you say, this is hopeless, I give up and leave? But as I said, Annie was tougher than Helen, and she did not leave. She would spell words in her hand every time they touched something or there was something nearby. But Helen didn't understand. She thought it was a game. She didn't realize these were words related to whatever she was touching. But Helen was around 19 months old when she became seriously ill. And she was very smart. And she knew words and things, before she became ill. And one day when she was standing out by the water pump and the water was sort of dripping over her hand, and Annie was writing water on her hand, she had a moment of knowing. She suddenly realized that those signals were not just a game. Those hand movements were not a game. That spelled water. And she got so excited that she went to Annie and said, "What's your name?" And Annie didn't say, Annie or Miss Sullivan. She said, T-E-A-C-H-E-R, teacher. And I understand, according to this, for the rest of her life, Helen always referred to Annie as teacher. And by the way, Annie stayed with Helen the rest of Annie's life. Let's see if there was anything else here. I hope that all of you will have many teachers who will help you to see things in a new way, to think of ideas that you never had before, because that's what learning is all about.
We will now have our interlude and offering. This is an opportunity to help us maintain the sustenance of this organization. Please give generously. You can give either in the basket or you can also give online. And 40% of the offering goes to a charity that we choose. And this quarter, it's the American Civil Liberties Union. So please give generously. Oh my gosh.
And the choir will be singing Love is Love by Matthew J. Armstrong. And you've already been introduced to Alicia Tran. We are so happy she is here. Just a few more words. She is from UCF. She's a freshman piano major. And she also composes. And she's trying to get into our composition program. So again, we're very happy. So we're singing Love is Love. And the words are simple. We basically sing love is love. Well, maybe a few more words, but basically it's that. But I wanted to say the author and the composer, one and the same, dedicated this music to all those who simply wish to be accepted for who they are.
Love
We will now sing our children out to class. The words will be on the screen in 1 second. I'll just start. We love you and bless you and send you on your way. We love you and bless you today and every day. Our speaker this morning is the Reverend Tracie Barrett. She doesn't really need any introduction because she's been around here for a while. And her topic is how do we disagree in love?
I can reach it. So the last few years have been wrought with angry discourse. And it's hard these days to find common points with people we don't agree with. I mean, how many of us have friends or family who hold beliefs that are so completely opposite of yours? I'm talking about anything here: religion, politics, music, movies, whether Miracle Whip in place of mayo is an abomination, and it is, or a perfectly fine substitute, it is not, and I will die on this hill. And how many of us have spent days and putting together a rational argument so for your side and against theirs and presented it, because that's what we do, right? And I probably don't have to tell you that it doesn't work too well. And why is that? I mean, logic should totally rule, right? If you could present a valid argument for why another person is wrong, an argument rooted in science and history and facts and reason, then the other person should just get an epiphany and change their ways, right? Yeah, no. And there's actually a term for this. It's called the backfire effect. So this was discovered by the University of Southern California's Brain and Creativity Institute. They put participants in an MRI machine and then presented them with counter-arguments to strongly held political beliefs. And as they were read these statements, the scientists scanned their brains for activity. And the study showed that the part of the brain that responds to a physical threat also responds to an intellectual one. The amygdala, the emotional core of our brain, makes us biologically wired to react the same way to both threatening information and an alligator chasing us through the water. Threatening information is that information that attacks our core beliefs. Core beliefs are those beliefs that we hold most deeply. They often develop in childhood and are compounded by life experiences. They're inflexible, rigid, and really sensitive to being challenged. So when information comes in that challenges a core belief, our amygdala immediately begins screaming for the brain to go to battle stations because the information is challenging a worldview we hold. Our brains love consistency. Our brains build a worldview kind of like we build a house. There's a foundation and frame and windows and doors, and it all fits together. And when a thought comes in that does not fit inside the house, the whole house can fall apart. Think a bit about something you once held as a worldview that has changed in your life. It's uncomfortable when that happens. There can be quite a bit of time where nothing seems to fit, where maybe even you don't seem to fit. And it can be scary, which is why our brains work to try to protect us from that feeling. So if a thought comes through that doesn't fit in the house, the brain rejects it. And the backfire effect is the next step. The brain builds a fence and a moat and refuses all other visitors. Basically, we double down. The author of the comic The Oatmeal, in explaining the backfire effect, followed up with this statement. Just remember that your worldview isn't a perfect house that was built to last forever. It's a cheap condo. And over time, most of it will fall apart. Which is actually a good thing. It means that we can constantly change and adjust our worldview as we learn more. And that's already really hard to do in our own brains. So it makes sense that it's really difficult for us to do in others. So what do we do? Megan Phelps Roper grew up in the Westboro Baptist Church. She was on the picket lines as young as 5 years old. She says herself in her TED Talk that she believed every tenet of her faith. In 2009, she joined Twitter. And just like on the picket lines, people met her there with the same vitriol that she found at protests. But then she said something interesting would happen. She says, "But in the midst of that digital brawl, a strange pattern developed. Someone would arrive at my profile with the usual rage and scorn, and I would respond with a custom mix of Bible verses, pop cultural references, and smiley faces. They would be understandably confused and caught off guard, but then a conversation would ensue, and it was civil, full of genuine curiosity on both sides. How had the other come to such an outrageous conclusion about the world?" She goes on to tell about how one of the people she encountered on Twitter, a man named David who ran a blog called Julicious, came to see her at a picket in New Orleans. Now this was after several months of heated but friendly arguments online. He brought her a dessert from Jerusalem and she brought him kosher chocolate. And she goes on to say about David, "There was no confusion on our positions, but the line between friend and foe was becoming blurred. We'd started to see each other as human beings, and it changed the way we spoke to one another. It took time, but eventually these conversations planted seeds of doubt in me. My friends on Twitter took the time to understand Westboro's doctrines, and in doing so, they were able to find inconsistencies I'd missed my entire life." Megan Phelps Roper left Westboro in 2012, and she credits those seeds of doubt that provided for shifts in her perspective. Those shifts led to an erosion of her worldview. She tore down the house in her brain and built a new one. Ozan Verrill, in his online article, "Facts Don't Change People's Minds, Here's What Does," says, "We are reluctant to acknowledge mistakes to avoid admitting we were wrong. We'll twist ourselves into positions that even seasoned yogis can't hold. The key is to trick the mind by giving it an excuse. Convince your own mind, or that of a friend, that your prior decision or prior belief was the right one given what you knew. But now that the underlying facts have changed, so should the mind. But instead of giving the mind an out, we often go for a punch to the gut. We belittle the other person. I told you so. We ostracize, basket of deplorables. We ridicule. What an idiot." He continues, "The moment you belittle the mind for believing in something, you've lost the battle. At that point, the mind will dig in rather than give in. Once you've equated someone's beliefs with idiocracy, changing that person's mind will require nothing short of an admission that they are unintelligent. And that's an admission that most minds aren't willing to make." So how do we get around this? Well, I go back to Megan Phelps Roper. It was the relationships built that allowed her to open herself up to listen. The questions her new friends were asking allowed her to make changes in her mind. She didn't say that they told her she was being ridiculous for believing these things. Instead, they asked her, "Considering X, can you tell me about your belief in Y?" Elizabeth Svoboda, in her article, "Why is it so hard to change people's minds?" says, "But asking questions and showing a genuine desire to hear and acknowledge the answers sets a tone that boosts the odds of a productive resolution, or at least a friendlier stalemate that inspires further thought and discussion. Persuasion that endures isn't a one-sided sales job, but a fertile exchange, one in which your own thinking may evolve in ways you hadn't expected." That's the key, showing a genuine desire to hear and acknowledge the answers. Don't just listen to pre-plan your response, as we are often wont to do. Listen, really listen. Recognize why the person you're talking to thinks the way they do. Is this part of their growing up? Have they not had space and room and a safe space to explore their worldviews and remodel that home in their brain? Megan Phelps Roper says this about where we are now. What gives me hope is that we can do something about this. The good news is that it's simple, and the bad news is that it's hard. We have to talk and listen to people we disagree with. It's hard because we often can't fathom how the other side came to their positions. It's hard because righteous indignation, that sense of certainty that ours is the right side, is seductive. It's hard because it means extending empathy and compassion to people who show us hostility and contempt. The impulse to respond in kind is so tempting, but that isn't who we want to be. We can resist. Now, she goes on to give 4 things that people did differently with her to make real conversation possible. The first one is to not assume bad intent, or as we often say, assume good intentions. She says, my friends on Twitter realized that even when my words were aggressive and offensive, I sincerely believed I was doing the right thing. Assuming ill motives almost instantly cuts us off from truly understanding why someone does and believes as they do. We forget that they're a human being with a lifetime of experience that shaped their mind, and we get stuck on that first wave of anger, and the conversation has a very hard time ever moving beyond it. But when we assume good or neutral intent, we give our minds a much stronger framework for dialogue. The second step, she says, is to ask questions. This helps us map the disconnect between our different points of view. She also points out that asking questions signals to the other person that they're being heard. It changes the dynamic of the conversation. Now, how we word these questions is key. Don't ask things like, how in the world can you believe that? Instead, be curious. Ask, I wonder if you could tell me more about that belief. The third step, according to Megan Phelps Roper, is to stay calm. This is hard. But staying calm, or even excusing ourselves from the conversation for a bit to regroup, keeps the conversation civil. Getting snarky, raising our voices, making snide comments, all of these put up barriers and takes the conversation to an explosive end. And if being calm is difficult in the moment, pause the conversation until you can be calm. I'm still working on this one, I will admit. Finally, the fourth step is to make the argument. Phelps Roper says this might seem obvious, but one side effect of having very strong beliefs is that we sometimes assume that the value of our position is or should be obvious and self-evident, that we shouldn't have to defend our positions because they're so clearly right and good, that if someone doesn't get it, it's their problem, that it's not my job to educate them. But if it were that simple, we would all see things the same way. We are all a product of our upbringing, and our beliefs reflect our experiences. We can't expect others to spontaneously change their own minds. If we want to make change, we have to make a case for it. Now, I would add a fifth step, not a step. I would add it as a container to wrap these steps in, and that would be grace. Now, grace is a word we don't often talk about in Unitarian Universalist circles. And perhaps that word is loaded for you, so it does have a lot of meaning, both good and bad. So I want to explain what I mean by that word when I use it. For me, grace is remembering that the person in front of me is a whole and complete human being with their own experiences, stories, and challenges. Grace is remembering that the person in front of me, no matter how much I might disagree with everything they believe in, that person has inherent worth and dignity. Grace is remembering that how I respond and what I say will teach them so much not only about me, but about Unitarian Universalism. Grace is meeting them where they are right in this moment, knowing that it might change and it may never. Grace for me helps me go from, I cannot believe they think that, to, I wonder what led them to that belief. Which then helps me to not assume ill intent, helps me to ask questions, helps me to stay calm, and helps me to gently make my argument. Do I expect to see a change in that same day in someone? Absolutely not. Because changing that worldview that is built in our brains takes time. It takes patience. It takes grace. And it takes love. Megan Phelps Roper wraps up her TED Talk with the following observation. My friends on Twitter didn't abandon their beliefs or their principles, only their scorn. They channeled their infinitely justifiable offense and came to me with pointed questions, tempered with kindness and humor. They approached me as a human being, and that was more transformative than 2 full decades of outrage, disdain, and violence. I know that some might not have the time or the energy or the patience for extensive engagement, but as difficult as it can be, reaching out to someone we disagree with is an option that's available to all of us. And I sincerely believe that we can do hard things, not just for them, but for us and our future. Escalating disgust and intractable conflict are not what we want for ourselves, or our country, or our next generation. So as people become more and more entrenched in their worldviews, remember it will be tough. We may not convince them to change their ways, but we can follow the steps to help them remodel their internal condo in their brain. Browbeating them won't do it. Arguing and making them feel bad won't do it. What will? Don't assume bad intent. Ask questions. Stay calm and make the argument. Wrap all those up in the gift of love and grace. And let's see if we can't change this world. Amen. May it be so, and blessed be.
So please join with the words that are on the screen while I extinguish the chalice. I believe we'll have our closing music next, which is Spirit of Life. I think most of us know this, but if you don't, it's in the hymnal number 123. And I believe, is Stephanie going to lead us again? We're just doing one verse or two around? Twice? It's pretty short. One time.
Y'all know this one, right? Yes. Okay, so turn around and face the people across from you, please. Don't be scared.
My closing words today are actually not just words, they are song lyrics by Carol Bayer Sager and Burt Bacharach, who's, I could not believe when I was Googling Burt Bacharach how many songs this man actually wrote and how many people sang them. I was blown away. So, this is from a song that he wrote. And I never thought I'd feel this way. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm glad I got the chance to say that I do believe I love you. And if I should ever go away, well, Then close your eyes and try to feel the way we do today. And then if you can remember, keep smiling, keep shining, knowing you can always count on me, for sure. That's what friends are for. For good times and bad times, I'll be on your side forevermore. That's what friends are for. Go in peace. I don't know if there's an announcement about potluck, but generally what we do is ask people to kind of clear out the space a little bit so our table captains can get the room turned around. Oh, there's a postlude. Oh, I forgot about that. I'm sorry. There's a postlude, and then we will do all of that. Postlude? I'm so not used to that.
As Lori gets up here to give all the instructions, follow all the instructions so we can eat.
So, a couple of quick announcements